Today's episode of Sports Spectrum with Kyle Mangas, the two-time NAIA Division II Player of the Year from Indiana Wesleyan, is brought to you by Compassion International, the most trusted child development ministry in the world. And Compassion is all about releasing kids from poverty. And with the pandemic, man, that just left so many kids and their families in really desperate need of help. And what happened was Compassion, along with their pro-athlete friends, decided to stand in the gap for these kids that otherwise would not get sponsored. You see, normally Compassion sponsors a lot of kids each year, close to 70,000, through concerts and large events and venues, and all of that was taken away because of the pandemic. So what happened was they decided to stand in that gap. Let's figure out a way to help release 70,000 kids and their family from poverty in the midst of this pandemic. And so we came up with Fill the Stadium. The Fill the Stadium initiative, fillthestadium.com. And our goal is to feed and release 70,000 kids from poverty by providing them with food, education, medical care, vocational training. It's all done in Jesus' name. And we're almost there. 50,000 or so kids have been released from poverty during this Fill the Stadium initiative, but there's still more to go. We still got about 20,000 kids and their families that are in desperate need of help. Fillthestadium.com to donate, to learn more, and release these kids from poverty.
This is Sports Spectrum, the intersection of sports and faith, where we bring Jesus back into the conversation. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
Welcome, everyone, to the show. I am Jason, and this is Sports Spectrum, our website, sportspectrum.com. Make sure you go check that out each and every day for articles, devotionals, podcasts, all available right there at the website, the intersection of sports and faith in Jesus Christ, over at sportspectrum.com. If you have a guest idea, a topic, a story we should be covering, you can email me, jason@sportspectrum.com. That is my email, comes directly to me, jason@sportspectrum.com. And just a shout out to so many that have emailed and sent over guest ideas or connections. I mean, we've had a ton of guests here on this podcast because of people like you emailing an idea, a story, a guest idea, whatever it is. When you contact us, that just makes us better because we can't dig up every single story that's out there. And we want to tell stories, the stories that you know, the athletes that you know, and maybe some that you don't. Again, my email, jason@sportspectrum.com. And one of the athletes that you need to know about, if you're a basketball fan, you need to know who Kyle Mangas is. See, Kyle plays basketball, or just finished his career, his 4-year career, with Indiana Wesleyan. They are an NAIA school, Division II. See, Kyle wasn't just a player on that team. He was the best player for 4 years on that team, a two-time NABC, NAIA, Division II Player of the Year. He was the best player in the NAIA the last 2 years. He was a 4-time first-team NAIA All-American. His entire career, he was an All-American. He's also a champion. He was an NAIA champion back in 2018 when Indiana Wesleyan won the whole thing. And that year, he was just a freshman. He was named the tournament's most outstanding player. In 2020, he won the Bevo Francis Award, which recognizes the top small college basketball player in the United States for a given season. Are you seeing where I'm going here with Kyle Mangas? Domination for 4 years at Indiana Wesleyan. I got to meet Kyle in person a couple years ago. I was invited to speak to Indiana Wesleyan and their coaching staff and their team, and even to the whole school at their convocation. And I'm telling you, when I met Kyle, quiet, maybe a little introverted, but you knew that this kid was special, right? And I watched him play a couple games in person when I was down there, and my goodness, he knows how to play the game of basketball. When you look at him, though, you don't think, man, this guy's going to dominate a game. But when you get on the court, you realize this guy's an assassin. He's a killer, and he can shoot lights out. I mean, think about this. He's a guard, right? He averaged 29.5 points this year, his senior year. The best in NAIA, 29.5 points, just about 30 points a game. He shot 60% from the floor. And if you're a sports fan, if you're a basketball fan, as a guard shooting 60%, that's pretty darn good. Usually they hover in the 45 range. Maybe you get to 50 if you're a guard. Kyle shot 60% from the field this past year too. And man, his 4 years with Indiana Wesleyan saw a total of 20 losses. 20 losses in 4 years. They averaged 5 losses a year. They averaged just about 30 wins each year that he played. So he's a part of a really great program with Greg Tonagel at Indiana Wesleyan. And man, was he just dominant on the court. So I really think you're going to enjoy learning a little bit more about Kyle Mangas, who I think might have a professional career ahead of him as well. You'll get to hear his story, the I Am Third model, one that I just love. And that's what Indiana Wesleyan and Kyle Mangas are all about. Take a listen to Kyle Mangas joining us here today on Sports Spectrum. Kyle, welcome to Sports Spectrum, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And, you know, it was nice meeting you 2 years ago. And like we were talking about before, time is just flowing after that. And now I've got a month till I graduate.
I know. You were just starting your sophomore year, and it felt like yesterday that I was there hanging out with you guys and kind of talking to the team a little bit. You had just come off a national championship and most outstanding player and all that happening at like 18, 19 years old. But let me start with this. Is it weird to hear you can now say that you're a former Indiana Wesleyan college basketball player? That's got to be weird, right?
Yeah, it's super weird. And especially like when the Indiana Wesleyan players come back who played before me and stuff. And when they come to games, they say it's the weirdest thing. So that's probably, I mean, one of the weirdest things for all athletes after they're done at their high school or college. You go back the next year and like watch the team play and you're like, man, like I should be out there. And like, I know what the coach is going to say in the locker room at halftime and that type of thing. So I'm sure I'll be feeling all of those type of, you know, emotions and stuff.
So this is sort of an overarching question here because it's a generic one, but if you can describe these 4 years for you as a player with the Wildcats, what comes to mind? Try to describe that.
Yeah, it's been really special. Just my personal growth, you know, the team success on the court, some individual awards I've won, and just, I mean, the relationships that I've built. When you put all that together, it's been really special. And to see myself coming in as a freshman to where I am now. I mean, it's just crazy just how I've grown in my character, how I've grown in my faith and on the court. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better college experience.
I want to talk about the growth in a second, but I want to make sure people see this here. I'm wearing a shirt that says, I am three. I actually got this shirt when I came out to see you guys a couple years ago, and it stands for I am third, which is a motto that not only is everywhere when you walk around Indiana Wesleyan's athletic department. It's such a great motto. I actually adopted it and put it in my book because I was just so impressed by what I had seen. So when I say that, I am third, describe I am third and what it means to you.
Yeah. Simply put, I am third means God first, others second, and yourself third. And, you know, our team and Coach Tonagel, our head coach, we adopted that many years ago, and that's really just what we live by. You know, we put Jesus first in all that we do. We put our teammates second. We put other people second, and really pour into them and try to lift other people up. And then lastly, after we do those things, we end up, you know, finding out that we've grown a lot in the process, and we're a whole different person. So actually, when you pursue something else, when you pursue something bigger than you, when you chase after God, and when you put your teammates before you, you actually end up changing a lot in the process for the better.
Is that hard? You know, when I think about, you know, chasing after God and success, I mean, you had a lot of success just coming in as a freshman.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying your faith wasn't there. I think when you walk into a place like Indiana Wesleyan, you realize faith is strong. But is that hard to truly understand that there's a greater purpose here? Because just the competitor in me, I'm sure the competitor in you, basketball can get in the way, and sometimes not in a bad way, but in the way of pursuing that higher calling because it's what you're entrenched in and known for in some way, in some cases, you know, every day.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy because the world tells us, and, you know, outside people tell us, you know, forget everyone else, go chase what you want and do what you want, and, you know, kind of leave everyone else in the dust. But I mean, this is really countercultural what we're doing here. And we kind of say, no, like, we're going to give ourselves up to Jesus, give ourselves up to our teammate, and we're going to end up changing, in the process. So, I mean, it's completely countercultural the world says chase, wealth and power. And here we kind of, are looking to be humble and selfless towards others. So it's completely different from what the world is saying. Is it easier to accept is a tough word, but is it easier to push forward when you don't accomplish all your goals? And the goal, of course, for Indiana Wesleyan every year is to try and compete and then eventually win a national championship. You did that in your freshman year, but you fell short the next 3 years. Although you look at those seasons, and those were phenomenal seasons. I mean, all 4 years, I got the numbers somewhere. I think you lost like a total of like 20 games or some number in the 4 years you played. So is it easier though? Does it make it easier when your mind is set on something greater to be able to handle those defeats? We're really competitive people here, and that starts with Coach Tonigal. But one thing we've really learned is that when we surrender outcomes, whether we win or lose, we feel a lot of freedom in the process and a lot of joy along with that. For example, this year, we were the number one ranked team going into the NAIA National Tournament, won our first round, and then we got upset by actually another team from Indiana in the Sweet 16, and they were the 16th overall seed. We were the first seed, and we got upset. We had really high hopes and aspirations to win it all, but we had some devotions like the day before and that week, and our players and coaches were all in on we're surrendering the outcome. We're going to do our best to win, and nobody wants to lose, and it feels terrible to lose like that. But at the end of the day, our identity isn't in winning or losing or championships or anything like that. Our identity is being children of God, and that's what we're pursuing. So I think we can't let a loss define the season or even a championship, but the journey and how we grew along in that process. Kyle Mangas is joining us here from Indiana Wesleyan. He's a guard, two-time NABC, NAIA Division II Player of the Year. And I think a lot about, for you, in that word success, and you talked about the growth, and I do want to talk about the spiritual growth that you've gone through over these 4 years. But when you came in, let's go back to, I guess it would have been 2017, right? And you come in as a freshman, and you have a lot of success quickly. You win a national title, most outstanding player. You're named an All-American as a freshman. Take me back to that year a little bit, where you clearly were establishing yourself on the court, right? But 18, 19 years old, I'm just thinking about when I was 18 or 19, man, what a knucklehead I was. And just watching you so mature at that young age, but yet still trying, I'm guessing, to figure things out in being away from family. Life, just is different. What was that year like for you coming in, and maybe expectations and just trying to figure out, what God was going to do for you, at such a young age? Yeah. To start before that, in my recruiting process in high school, I was actually not a very highly recruited kid at all. IWU was one of my two offers. My other offer was Grace College, which is college in my hometown, Winona Lake, Indiana. Yeah. But I knew IWU was the fit all along, just because, the coaches and the players, they shared similar values that I did, and faith and culture and that type of thing. So, I knew IWU was the right place from the start, but coming in as a freshman, I didn't know I would have, that big of an impact on the court and off the court. My parents have even said they didn't even, I exceeded their expectations. The coaches said that too. So, and I exceeded my own expectations just, that freshman year. And, I was really pushed out of my comfort zone, actually, because I came in as a really quiet, introverted, shy kid. That's just naturally who I am. And about halfway through the year, we went on a 3-game losing streak, and that's not very common in our program. Things get pretty tense when that happens. So we had a players only meeting, and our two seniors, were kind of leading it, and they called me out and they said, "Kyle, you're a leading scorer right now. You're helping us a lot, but we need more. We need you to be vocal. We need you to show more emotion. Because when you do those things, you lift your teammates to another level." And I was like, wow, I didn't even realize any of that. And I don't know if I'm okay with doing that. I felt uncomfortable with them saying that. with me as a freshman, an introverted freshman. So, I realized like, wow, if I can help the team this way, like that's what needs to happen. So I tried my best to do that. And it's not easy at times. When your teammates and when God is calling you to do something hard, it's not always easy, but, it has a higher purpose. And from that time on, I think we lost maybe like one or two more games and went on to win the national championship. So, that moment sticks out to me my freshman year.
Is that something that you were able to take with you and kind of learn from each year after that? Like, okay, this is clearly now, even though you're a sophomore, when I met you, you were just a sophomore, but still you were coming off of such high expectations off of a freshman year, not just for the team, but for you individually. Was that something you were able to carry over for the next 3 years and realize, okay, this is sort of how I got to grow here as a leader?
Yeah, definitely. I realized, kind of what my impact was. It's not just, points or scoring or anything like that. But, I realized that my job, as a sophomore and then junior and especially as a senior was how can I pour into the younger guys and, call something out of them, different ways that they can help our team. Some guys, it might be, hey, we really need your spiritual leadership. You just, you bring a great word every day. Another guy might bring, man, like when you bring this motor to practice on our scout team, like it makes our first team so much better. Each guy has a different role. And, a big thing in our program is, we're a player-led team. So when the coach doesn't have to say things like that and, the leaders of the team really recognize that and call it out of the teammates, it's huge. It goes a long way.
Let's take a quick break from our conversation to tell you a little bit more about Compassion International and their Fill the Stadium initiative. Due to COVID-19, 70,000 children and their families in the Compassion programs needed your urgent support. You see, 70,000 is the capacity of the average pro football stadium, and that's where the idea for Fill the Stadium came about. And it's a stadium that cannot remain empty, and your help is needed here for these children in crisis, just looking for basic necessities like food and education and medical care and vocational training, things like that. Your donation will help these children and their families through the critical next 12 months. And great updates here. Our goal is to help 70,000 kids. Well, so far we filled almost 50,000 seats of those 70,000 kids. So you are doing an amazing work, and many of our pro athlete friends have donated large amounts of money as well. And it's just really neat to see the body come together in a need of crisis. But the work isn't finished yet. Still got about 20,000 kids and their families that are in desperate need of help. So you can help restore what COVID-19 destroyed and help provide essential food, medical care, and support for a child and their family during this pandemic. Go to fillthestadium.com to donate, to make a difference in a child's life and their family's life at fillthestadium.com. This is a stadium that cannot remain empty. Again, fillthestadium.com. Kyle Mangas is our guest here on Sports Spectrum. Kyle, I know your dad is an important part of your life. Tell me about your dad and the impact that he's had on this journey that you've been on.
Yeah, we have a special relationship. He's a pretty old school guy, and he's from Indiana too, played small college basketball in Indiana. And, he really helped develop not only my love for basketball, but just some really special characteristics about me. I think my humility and, just my respectfulness comes from him. And, he taught me a lot. And the main thing I attribute to him is I'm actually kind of like known for shooting bank shots, which is kind of like old and not as modern, I guess, but I shoot bank shots a lot, and that comes from him, and my teammates make fun of me for it, but they tend to go in a lot. But I mean, that's one thing. He really taught me how to play the game of basketball. So we have a special relationship.
How about your relationship with Christ? Where does that start? And we're going to get into the growth of that at Indiana Wesleyan, but where does that take shape for you? Is that something you had since you were a little kid and kind of grew into, or is that something that kind of took shape a little bit later?
I mean, I think it took shape a little bit later, and, my family always went to church and that type of thing, but it really came into form during my college years and over these past couple years. I always believed in Jesus, and, I accepted him, but I didn't know what that truly meant. I think beforehand, I always thought, that, being a Christian meant, you had to check off boxes. You had to pray every day. You had to get in the word. You had to earn your salvation and that type of thing. But lately what I've realized is that no, like you can throw that stuff out the window. I mean, it's important and it's great, but what it comes down to is really truly accepting, Christ into your heart and knowing that, he paid the ultimate price. I don't have to do another thing in the world because he paid it all for me. I can't earn it myself. He did it for me. So, that's what my relationship is with him. And, it's growing stronger every day. And, I have to attribute that to just, who I'm surrounded by, just a group of guys who, push me to grow in my faith. I can talk about them. I can talk with them about my faith, and they can challenge me. I can challenge them. And I think that's helped my relationship with Christ go deeper.
What are some of the ways that you were able to stay connected to God? I mean, you talked about, you don't want to check boxes, but there's obviously things that we are called to do to help, it's a relationship, right? So you have to have, in order to have a relationship, you actually have to do something to keep that relationship going. What's discipleship? What did that look like within the team and even just for yourself during your college years?
Yeah. Like you said, I mean, you don't want to check off boxes, but we are called to do things. And I think when you truly accept Jesus, you want to pursue the next step. And the next step is, it's praying, it's going deep in your prayer life. It's really diving into the word and finding out, how that connects to you and your life. And, I've really tried to develop some, strong habits here. And we have a saying, no Bible, no breakfast. Kind of a good saying when we do morning workouts, like 6 a.m. workouts. We'll be there at 5:50 and coach will be saying, who got in the word this morning, who was in their Bible before they got, a breakfast bar or something like that. So that's a strong one. And then just pushing myself out of my comfort zone to actually approach people and talk about it. I was never really comfortable about that because I felt like I wasn't knowledgeable. I felt like, this person might be uncomfortable with it, that type of thing. But that's where, like I said, that's where I've grown the most is actually, in community, talking to people about my faith and their faith.
So let's go back to what you just said for a second. We need to have a chat with Coach Tonigal. You were getting practices at 6 a.m., so no Bible, no. So you were getting in the Word and getting up at 5 a.m. I'm thinking about college here, Kyle. College students don't do well at 5 a.m. Usually they're still awake from the night before at 5 a.m. You guys are getting up at 5:30, getting in the Word, obviously, spending that time with the Lord, and then going to practice.
Yeah. It's, I mean, in the preseason we do, it's at least 3 times a week, 6 a.m. conditioning. And then we do these things called junkyards on Friday, which are outdoor workouts. But yeah, we get up you get yourself up at 5, you get in the Word, by yourself, sometimes with a teammate. It can be anything. And that's the beauty of it. It's totally up to us. He doesn't give us any script. It can be praying with a teammate. It can be, any book in the whole Bible. Like that's the great thing about it. And you just bring it to the team and you don't know, that could spark someone for the workout and the rest of the day. And that's what's great about it.
It's good. Yeah. I'm going to tell Coach Tonigal, I'm glad I didn't play for you when I was 18. I don't know if I would have made it at 5 a.m., Kyle. I'm just being honest here.
It's early. I'm happy I'm done with it now.
I bet you are. I don't think they have practices in the pros that early, but maybe they will. Who knows? Hopefully we'll find out about that.
Yeah.
And I will talk about that in a second, about your next steps, I guess, after, college and now what that might look like professionally for you. But I want to ask you a question that I don't ask a lot because we don't get to talk to guys who are, players of the year multiple times like you were this year. Mm-hmm. Walk me through what it's like to be in the zone. And that's a different wording or level for different people, but there is a zone, and this as an athlete, that when you're feeling it, you're kind of feeling it. And there was a game, I think you dropped 51 this past season. So describe that feeling when you step on the court and you realize it's working right now, because sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah. The word that comes to mind when you say that is unconscious. So, you're not fully aware of what's going on outside of you. You're just so locked into what's going on right in front of you. That's how I guess I would put it. And, when you're in the zone, like they say, you can't really explain it, but you just know you're in it, and you try to stay in it as long as you can. You try to keep going. you're just not thinking about anything. You're not worrying about anything. You're fearless in the moment. That's what it means, I think.
So take me through the other side of it. And you didn't have a lot of these kind of games, but the games where just nothing is falling, and how you kind of push through during those type of games.
Yeah, I think the important mentality you need to have, and this is for a good game or bad game, this is my mentality. Whether you make a shot or miss a shot, you have to be ready to move on to the next one. You could miss 5 shots in a row, but you have to have that confidence to attack the next opportunity. And I know that's not as easy as it sounds, but it comes a lot from your teammates. It comes from yourself, just mental toughness. I think, you can make 5 shots in a row too, and you have to forget about that, and you have to move on to the next opportunity. And, I'm not one, I don't show a lot of emotion on the court. You can't really tell if I make a bad play or a good play, and that's just because I'm already moved on to the next one.
Is there a play that stands out that you're like, man, I don't know how I made that play, but that thing worked? Was there a play that think back? I mean, you played 4 years, you played in so many games, won so many games. Is there one play, one shot that you think back to?
Yeah, actually it was my sophomore year. We were playing in the national tournament out in South Dakota. We were playing Dakota Wesleyan, who was like the hometown team. So the whole gym was packed for them. And it was a close game, and we were down 2 with 7 seconds left. They just made a free throw. And I had like the worst rolled ankle I'd ever had. I had like Kleenex up my nose. I had a bloody nose. My whole elbow was bandaged. Like I was torn up. I was a mess. And I took the ball, and I remember I just dribbled down the left side, and the guy was riding my hip pretty hard. So I did a step back on the left wing and hit the shot with like 0.7 seconds left to put us up 1 and got us to the Elite Eight. And the one thing I do remember is like a senior coming over to me, Evan Maxwell, who was a transfer from Kansas University. And he came up to me like midway through the second half, because I was all banged up and I was still playing. He's like, hey, like, just want you to know, like, we believe in you. I believe in you. Like, let's do this. And before I got the ball for that, I just remembered what Evan said. So a lot of credit to him.
Encouragement, man, right? That's what it's about. Like if you can lift somebody else up or they lift you up, that just makes it, it makes you want to go to battle for your guys, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Kyle, this has been a great conversation. A couple more questions here with Kyle Mangas from Indiana Wesleyan. So we talked about what's next. What's next? Mm-hmm. Pro ball? Is there an opportunity here? Maybe the NBA, an opportunity for you to get seen and have some opportunities to play professionally maybe next year?
Yeah, I definitely want to keep playing basketball, and I'm in the process of exploring that right now. Season hasn't been over too long, and I was not worrying about it during season, but I'm starting to get into that process, and, you got to look around for agents and, opportunities, and hopefully I'll be able to get into the summer league and see what happens from there.
Has a scout, did you have a lot of scouts this year? I presume there were probably some. Did you have some scouts that watched or maybe contacted you or coach, and let you know, hey, we're keeping our eye on this guy? Yeah,
there were a few, and they don't really reach out to you during season. That's just not how they do it. It's more afterwards. So I've been talking to some more now. Yeah.
Good, man. Well, we'll have to get an update, as soon as we find out here, and keep watching for Kyle Mangas in the pros, wherever that might be. Here, definitely. Maybe it's overseas. Who knows? But we'll see what the Lord does and where he takes you. All right. So my last question, it's kind of the question I ask all of our guests, but I'm going to ask it a little differently. Usually I just say, what is God teaching you right now? But I think when we think back to the last 14 months and the pandemic and how I think it's changed so many people's lives, whether people got it, whether they didn't, but even everybody was affected in some way. So when you think about the last 14, 15 months, what's the great lesson that the Lord has impressed upon your heart, that he's taught you, that he's shown you when you think back to, I don't know, whenever, March of 2020 was into where we are now?
Yeah. Obviously it's been just a crazy time for everybody across the world. And I think it's really taught me about identity and, it's not just as a basketball player, but identity can be, for someone's job, it can be, their role in their family, their role in their community, because so many of those things were taken away. People couldn't go to work. People couldn't see their family. People couldn't go out in the community. And, basketball, our national tournament got taken away. Yeah. We were just rolling at the time. And NCAA tournament, all that stuff. At the time, sports, just disappeared. So, I've really learned about my identity, and I've learned to not let, whatever you do consume you. Don't let it define you. What you're most known for is probably what people are going to talk to you about. So basketball player, people are going to, come up and ask you how many points you score. Like, what do you, like, what's next for you? What's this, what's that? Like, what accomplishment did you win? Like that type of thing. And it can be hard at times because sometimes you feel like, that's like your entire worth. I'm sure some people feel that for their jobs, their hobbies, that type of thing. But, what I really learned is that our identity and about identity is that my identity is, it's made up as a child of God. It's made up as a brother, a son, a teammate, a classmate, a friend, all of those things. And, basketball, it's just something I do, but it's not necessarily who I am. So the pandemic, when that stuff was taken away and we were, in quarantine for those 4 months, I really learned about that. And, it just gave me a whole new sense of freedom coming into my senior year. And it was the best year yet by far. I had so much joy because I didn't feel like I was consumed or weighed down by, my identity being in just a basketball player.
And time flies by, doesn't it, Kyle Mangas? It flies.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, 4 years, and I can remember when I stepped foot on this campus, and just crazy to see how much I've grown.
Well, congratulations, my friend. Seriously, you've had an amazing career. Division II NAIA Player of the Year 4 times, first team Division II All-American. I mean, what a career you had. But now you get to graduate and see where the Lord takes you next. And I'll be watching, that's for sure. So thanks, Kyle. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks I see your tweets and stuff, and seems like you always tune in to, at least the stats and stuff of our game. And
I do.
We really appreciate it. And we'll never forget when you came and shared your story and met with us, and hopefully you can come back sometime soon.
I would love that. Let's see if we can figure that out. And maybe I'll bring my daughter, maybe I'll bring my nephew along, but we're definitely going to come out there because I got a couple of Romano kids in my family that might be interested in checking out Indiana Wesleyan as well. Thanks, Kyle. Really appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Great stuff there from Kyle Mangas, 2-time NABC, NAIA Division II Player of the Year, the best player in the NAIA in college basketball the last 2 years, maybe the last 4 years. When you look at, he was an All-American each year, first team All-American his freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. That is one heck of a basketball career, probably the most decorated college basketball player ever at Indiana Wesleyan. I don't know that for sure, but I'm guessing Coach Tonigal will probably agree with me on this. And maybe one of, if not the most decorated NAIA player, maybe in a long time, if not forever, Kyle Mangas. And I can't wait to watch Kyle pursue a professional career and see where God takes him. And it's going to be a lot of fun. He's got a great story, and he's just such a humble young man. By the way, when we recorded this, he had just turned 22 years old. 22. Just thinking about, man, life's just getting started at 22, and I can't wait to see where Kyle ends up and what God takes him to and where he takes him to. So it should be a lot of fun. Thanks, Kyle, for joining us here today on the show. Make sure you check out our website, sportspectrum.com, for all of our content. Make sure you check out our podcast network as well. So it's not just about Sports Spectrum. We have a podcast network of shows. We have shows that are geared towards the women in sports, shows that are geared towards baseball. We have a football show that's coming up. We have an idea for a future show with some teen chaplains, which should be a really cool thing. Subscribe now over at sportspectrum.com. Wherever you get podcasts, on whatever podcast app you listen to, you can subscribe to Sports Spectrum's podcast and the Sports Spectrum Podcast Network. So thanks again for tuning in. Thanks to our partners and sponsors today, Compassion International. Donate and help release kids from poverty over at fillthestadium.com. And thanks again for joining us here today on the show. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time right here on Sports Spectrum.